Oh.
Good evening. It is Thursday, November 16th, 2023 at 6 p.m. We are at the District Service Center in Cottage Grove, Minnesota. We would like to acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the land of the Minnewacan Dakota people. Minnewacan means dwellers of the Spirit Lake. Our first item on the agenda is our roll call. Dana.
Eric Chesmer.
Here.
Louise Hines.
Here.
Pat Driscoll.
Here.
Melinda Doles.
Here.
Katie Schwartz. Simi Petnaik.
Here.
Sharon Van Leer.
Here. Next, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we have 3.0, and that's the approval of our agenda. Can I get a motion to approve an amended agenda adding 7.4 tentative agreement with bus drivers and bus assistants and removing the closed session for labor negotiations on the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Louise, second by Simi. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Next on our agenda is the consent agenda items. Consent agenda items, at this time, individuals may speak to the school board on any item relating to South Washington County Schools. The
Chair Van
board
Leer.
will not respond or
Chair Van
To the board.
or comments to the board. Sorry about that. The board will not respond to or discuss your comments. Character abuse or specific complaints identifying staff, students, or task force members will not be permitted. Each speaker is permitted to speak up to 3 minutes in total. At 3 minutes, the microphones will be turned off and we will move on to the next speaker or agenda item. We have
Consent, all consent items are considered routine and non-controversial by the school board and will be approved by a single motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. Prior to this meeting, board members have had the opportunity to review each of these items and may request that any item be moved to the action items for individual consideration. Can I get a motion to approve the consent?
Second.
Moved by Belinda, second by Eric. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Next is 6.0, and that is information items, which is 6.1, and that is our high school course catalog review, which will be presented this evening by our Assistant Superintendent, Kristine Schaefer, and Dr. Tia Clausen.
Good evening, School Board Chair Van Leer, School Board members, and Superintendent Nielsen. We are here tonight to share information about registration for high school courses that begin January of each school year. Tonight, we will discuss items related to the high school courses. Let's get into our presentation. We will address these items. So policy 613, we'll look at our graduation requirements, our high school registration process, our high school course catalog. We'll talk about the timeline and the process to submit and approve new courses, and then we will show you the final list of courses approved for the 23-24, actually 24-25 school year. Yes, we have the wrong date on there. And so now I'd like to introduce Dr. Tia Clausen, Director of Secondary Teaching and Learning.
Good evening, Chair Van Leer, members of the board, Superintendent Nielsen. I'm here to talk about all of that list that Assistant Superintendent Schaefer just mentioned. So I'll start first with Policy 613, graduation requirements. These were approved by the Board of Education in June 2021. They haven't yet changed. It's 4 years, 12 trimesters of English language arts, 3 years of mathematics, 3 years of science, 3.5 years of social studies, or 10 trimester credits, 1 trimester each of health and physical education, 2 trimesters of credits in the fine arts, and a minimum of 22 elective trimester credits. I do want to bring up that there is new legislation that will change these requirements beginning at minimum in 25-26 with regard to a personal finance course. So changes to the graduation and course requirements based on legislation. We have right now going into rulemaking the Minnesota State Standards in Social Studies. So in beginning again in 24-25, students who are freshmen during that year are required to complete a course for credit in personal finance in grades 10, 11, or 12. The legislation requires students to complete a course for credit in government and citizenship within the current social studies requirements of the district. It requires high schools to offer an ethnic studies course aligned with state social studies standards by the 26-27 school year, which is when the state has required full implementation of the social studies standards. It requires the school district to create an American Indian culture and language class for elective credit. It requires school districts to offer education on the Holocaust and genocide in middle school and in high school by the year of full implementation of the standards, and it adds media arts as a 5th arts area. With all of that in mind, that is work that we will be engaging in, but of course we have every year a course guide that we review, and it's a lot of fun to take a look at what we offer and to talk about possible new courses. So our course guide, I'll kind of go through the timeline of how we do this. So we start in October. We sent communication out to buildings inviting teachers to submit a proposal for a new course. Those new course proposals were due at the end of October, and then we meet as a committee. Both myself, Assistant Superintendent Schaefer, and the principals meet together to talk through all of those course proposals that the principals have already seen and that they have already decided, yes, it should come forward to a committee. Once we go through that, we have a rubric. I'll explain that in a minute. that we go through with each one of the proposals. After courses are approved, I hang out with a really long document and do a lot of playing around with it and adding new courses and reformatting and changing different course descriptions and finding, typos like 23, 24. Once that is done, I send that out to buildings to have them send it out to their departments to take a look and make sure that all the changes are correct and if there's any other changes that need to be made. That comes back. Once that is done, I make those changes, and then I populate the online course guide with the exact same wording that would be found in the paper course guide that we still have paper copies of the course guide. Schools are finalizing their registration materials right now. I'm meeting with middle school and high school counselors tomorrow morning to talk through and the whole registration process for 8th and 9th grade, but they're finalizing their plans for their nights of opportunity. They're finalizing their course cards. And then in January, we're going to be having high school information sessions, and February is registration. We're going to shift this timeline a little bit, beginning in 24-25. You can take a look at, it's just going to shift up a little bit. We're going to get information out to teachers, inviting them to think about new course proposals in May of this year before the end of the year. And that timeline that you see on your screen right now will allow for a fully developed course guide to be done by the end of October. We're just moving it up a little bit to provide time for printing and course cards and all of that kind of stuff. So I put a list of all of the proposals that we got. As you can see, there's a couple of slides of the course proposals. We have many course proposals again for online courses. Teachers are brainstorming elective courses that will satisfy student need as we continue to grow our online program. So everything from robotics and technology to online drawing to online AP art history to a game room for our alternative high school, online theater as literature. We have online art and artists of Asia, introduction to business. I'm just going through a few right now. Careers in coaching and officiating. And then we have at the very bottom, those are 3 separate courses, Unified Art, Unified Independent Living, and Unified Phi-Ed, that basically they're courses that combine special education students and general education students in one class of like that, where the general education students are acting as mentors for the students in the classroom. But it's the same general education classroom in art and independent living and PE. How the courses are approved, we have a rubric. The rubric is numerical. These bulleted points are what we use in the rubric. So, are all principals made aware of the course proposal and approve of it receiving consideration? Have the course proposals responded to an identified student need? Are the course proposals, are the priorities of those proposals identified and aligned to our strategic plan? Are the course proposals written through a culturally responsive lens and specifically addressing any sort of an opportunity gap? That the offering is innovative and creative, and then 2 sustainability pieces, that teacher duplication is achievable. That's an important one in case, we offer a course and we have a highly specialized teacher, that teacher would leave and we would have no one to teach the course. The final one is that the financial resources are attainable, that we can continue to sustain the course and that the materials are, the financial burden is not overwhelming, if that makes sense. Going through all of that, we meet as a group. It's a committee that meets. We have our rubric. We type our notes in. And at the end of the day, we come out with a list of approved courses. Not all of the courses were approved. So as you can see on this screen, this and the next screen are the list of the approved courses for our 24-25 school year. So our online drawing A and B, our online AP Art History, online Art and Artists of Asia, online Indigenous Art of the Americas, online Digital Video Game Design, Careers in Coaching and Officiating, Concurrent Enrollment Introduction to Business. I believe that will be through Bemidji State University. An Intro to Business as a counterpart to our current online Intro to Business course that we have. Our SoWashCo Repairs course, which is our computer repair course, is now on the course catalog as a course and not an independent study. Online Communication in the Digital Age. It came in as a proposal called Online Media Communications and Online Speech. We decided that those two courses separately could be combined into one that would make more sense and be a little bit more engaging for students. We approved Online Theater as Literature, Online Concurrent Enrollment, Exploring Careers in Education. And I believe that this course will run, the concurrent enrollment will run through Minnesota University Mankato. AP Environmental Science, we currently have that online, and now we're going to have that in our 3 brick-and-mortar high schools. Robotics Technology 2, the Unified Art, Unified Independent Living, and Unified General Physical Education were approved. And then Work Experience and Work Experience Seminar. They're 2 courses, but they run concurrently, which will offer a lot of opportunities for our students. And that's what we have. Any questions?
Questions?
Tia, thanks for this.
Yeah.
Am I on? Am I on now? Okay. So for these, for the non-online classes, how many of those are offered at all 3 comprehensive high schools?
The approved
or is
ones?
there some
Yeah.
like mix and match?
There are, but the online, the concurrent enrollment Intro to Business will be offered at Park, and I believe Woodbury. The concurrent enrollment courses require a teacher who has a master's degree in the content area. So we have a teacher currently at Woodbury. We also have a teacher now at Park who have their MBA. So that's, so that's why we are able to offer that now. The rest of the courses, and I don't want to misspeak, but I believe the rest of the courses will be offered at all 3.
And for the classes that are run through Mankato and Bemidji, are those considered weighted like a college in the schools class?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. College in the schools is just a different type of concurrent enrollment. Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see, where are we? Next is 6.2, and that is pupil transportation update, and that will be presented this evening by Dan Pine, Executive Director of Finance and Operations.
Good evening, Chair Van Leer, members of the school board, Superintendent Nielsen. Tonight I'm here to give you an update on our pupil transportation project plan. Wanted to give you an update on where we're at as we work on trying to solve the issues of not having enough drivers to fill our routes. As you know, our department is responsible for transporting about 12,000 students a day. Right now, we have 88 general education routes and 78 special education routes. Minnesota statute requires us to transport all students who live 2 miles or more away from the school they go to. Our local policy is that we transport all elementary students who live 1 or more miles away, and middle school students who live 1.5 miles or more away, and high school students who live more than 2 miles away. Right now, the numbers go up and down based on leave of absence and stuff, so we have 92 daily drivers and 6 substitute drivers. Generally, there's 8 to 10 drivers absent per day for various reasons, for sick and leave reasons. As we know, last year, the shortage of drivers to routes caused us to cancel routes for families, and we had 2 routes that were canceled almost the whole year. So we convened a steering committee to see what we could do to come up with a sustainable plan to have routes available for the students that qualify. So we created a guiding change document that is attached in the package tonight. And tonight we wanted to present the guiding change document that was put together actually last April. And as we reconvened this fall, the steering committee made a few changes to it, mainly to update the statistics and to look at what some of our outcomes are going to be. So as you look at the guiding change document, the current reality, we talked about most of that. Like the statute says, we have to transport 2 miles or more. We do 1, 1.5, and 2. Our fleet consists of 107 full-size general education buses and 20 special education buses. The capacity on our gen ed buses is about 77. We are actively recruiting drivers every day. It's posted all the time, and we do get 1 or 2 applicants. The time it takes to, once you apply and hired, to be able to drive it takes a little while, so it could take up to 4 to 5 weeks. Also in the current reality, we have 88 morning and 88 afternoon gen ed routes right now. We went to an opt-in process this year, and that reduced the number of routes that were needed. We currently have 2 morning and 2 afternoon in-district special ed routes and 78 contracted special education routes. We contract with the Hastings Bus Company. Oh, we also contract, smaller routes with type 3 vans with a couple other companies. Most of our routes are tiered, meaning that there's 3 different school runs. We talked about the number of drives we have. Right now we have 10 morning and 10 afternoon open general education routes that have no permanent driver assigned. Subs and standbys are primarily covering for these routes. There are hazardous parts of the district that are closer than the boundaries we use that are deemed hazardous, so we bus the students from there. Meaning you have to cross like a highway that might have like a 55-mile-an-hour speed limits, things like that. You may live closer, but the highway prevents the students from walking across it. We also would like to expand our activity busing, but we're limited by the number of drivers we have, and we're limited by the fact that our 3rd tier runs so late. And per Minnesota statute, all students that are eligible are routed, except for those that opted out. Drivers bid on routes on or around August 20th. The routes differ in length and are selected using a seniority process, or they can bid on a seniority process. Right now, our drivers must select an afternoon, a morning and an afternoon route together. We transport about 1,500 students to non-public and charter schools. Space-wise, we're really pushed down there, but we'll survive. We did talk about that in the different long-range plan of having a satellite area. And we have an aging driver workforce, which would make sense as many of our drivers come after a different career and are retired. And so we have to kind of look ahead to see who's on the retirement, who's going to retire and things like that. We have good communications with them. And we're putting new routing software into place as our old software has become obsolete. And that's called Transversa by Tyler Technologies, which will also allow us to implement a tracking system so as students enter the bus, they would sign in using a card reader and sign out. It helps the drivers know who's supposed to be on the bus, and also helps us to know if the students got off at the right stop and things like that. As we look at the results in our guiding change document, we are looking to implement a different way of measuring for the boundaries, a radius model instead of how it's driven, mainly to reduce confusion on who lives where, who far away. If you simply, and many school districts do this, if you simply say, you know, from this elementary school, here's a mile out all the way around. We would like to implement a plan that would reduce the need for routes because as we struggle to fill the routes every day, we can't guarantee, and we really don't want to cancel routes. So once routes are established, we would like to be able to tell the parents, yes, you will have rides to school every day in the school year. We want to increase the accuracy of as we look at our ridership, and that will help a lot with the new software. We want to clearly define what a hazard is. We do have a subcommittee of this. It's a hazardous subcommittee, and they're examining all the things that are termed hazardous now and whether they could be taken off that list, meaning we may have new sidewalks built and things like that in different ways of getting to school. And then we really just want to create a transportation system that will be sustainable for the next 5 years. What are the unacceptable means? Mainly, we cannot create a plan that would not bus all students who live more than 2 miles away from their school. And we cannot have a plan that would not provide transportation for students who qualify for special education transportation. Yeah, so the update tonight was to remind you of the guiding change document, and of course, we're welcome to any input. The steering committee is welcome to any input. The goals timeline for the steering committee is to make recommendations on how to measure the routes, hazardous areas, and even the walking distances. They would present those to the executive cabinet on January 23rd with the goal that the school board would review and adopt transportation policy by February 15th. That will allow communications time to get the information out as we start another, as we looked at our enrollment and opt-in processes. With that, I accept tonight's information, and if you, I'm glad to take any questions.
Any questions?
I would just like to bring back to the board's attention on April 6th, when we held a meeting, which was the draft of our guiding change document originally. If you recall, I actually went back and rewatched the video. If you recall, in that unacceptable means, there were 6 to 8 different items in there, and those were listed, as part of a draft. And I did go back and watch just our conversation where board members got to weigh in the consideration of taking a look at changing mileage, if you recall that one, as well as looking at start and end times. And what we agreed to is those were not going to be in the unacceptable means. And of course, we know that individuals wouldn't like that, but that was not a barrier that you were going to put at a guardrail that you were going to put on administration as we work to create a plan. So I just wanted to refresh our memory that that was one of those areas that was actually moved and approved and put into the results area.
Thank you. Any questions on that? Okay. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, the plan that would reduce the need for 10 to 15 bus routes, that just gives us more like breathing room with respect to absences and stuff like that, correct?
Yes.
There's no, it is intended to have zero impact on employment.
We want to employ as many people as we possibly can.
Thanks.
And we have standby drivers that are often have to go on and drive routes. And the purpose of the standby driver is to be ready in case there's an emergency. Because if there's an accident, we have to take that bus off the road, and sometimes we have to take the driver off the road. So we'll have to bring one in quickly to get those kids to school.
And Simi, I think that's an important point, because where is that balancing line? It was really difficult each week to receive the updates of which families and students did not have transportation. And so figuring out where is that balance with our workforce And as Dan shared, our goal is to keep as many of our drivers employed as possible. If we get more, we can always take back other routes from special education.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
The next information item is 6.3, and that will be presented this evening of the 6.3 proposed 24-25 calendar. That will be presented by our Superintendent, Julie Nielsen.
Thank you. This evening, I am bringing forth our district calendar for the 24-25 school year. And if you recall last year, we typically approve in March, and we received a lot of feedback that, can you get it done earlier? And if you recall, before that, we actually did calendars in 2-year increments. And what we found then is we were bringing that calendar back way too much for revision. And so we hope that we found just the right spot in terms of bringing our calendar forward. To start with, the calendar was drafted by our steering committee. The steering committee met several times to review the feedback from families, staff, and students. The steering committee included executive cabinet members and representation from professional development, our United Teachers of South Washington County, student information, and principals. In addition, that steering committee consulted and sought feedback from the rest of union leadership, our school leaders, which included our principals and supervisors, instructional directors, operational directors, athletics and activities, families, and then finally our district parent ambassador group that we vet a lot of our information through. So if you take a look at the PowerPoint, it is already up. Here we go. Our calendar is required to include 165 days of instruction for students in grades K through 12. With, of course, a caveat around the minimum number of hours in terms of instruction. An instructional day is a day during which all students in a particular grade and school are required to attend and participate in school activities for the full day together. Days in which school is canceled entirely are not considered instructional or membership days. And so that's important because, again, we have to meet a certain number of days and a certain number of minutes. And then finally, by our teacher contract, which are our largest bargaining group, the contract requires 183 duty days. So in looking at the next slide, when we were drafting the calendar, our first consideration was to meet the requirements in terms of the days and hours students need to be in attendance. We also considered the impact on families and calendar, and each year we receive a lot of feedback. We want the same spring break as South St. Paul. We want the same spring break. You're smart, you're laughing out there. You know what I'm talking about. And I think we're trying to figure out where is that balance because we know we have neighboring districts. We also look at the scheduling of spring break with our surrounding districts, and we take into consideration holidays in thinking about days where students and staff will be out. We know those days when sometimes families are taking their children out of school. And then finally, as the board is aware, I believe it was our last board meeting, we talked a lot about the implications of the READ Act and the legislation requiring all teachers to have additional training in the science of reading. And so with that, I'd like to just go through our 24-25 calendar. I don't know if the calendar is going to come up, but I know our board members have a copy. So if we look at August, August remains pretty routine and regular. We have continued to keep that K-5 assessment day on the 29th of August, as well as that very first day of what we typically consider to be school. And along with that day, we also onboard our 6th and 9th graders. And while we received feedback that parents really would like to do away with that day, we feel like our students' sake that it is really, really valuable. And on the other side, when families have a 6th or a 9th grader, they're like, that was such a great day for just our kids to be in school. And so we will continue with that day. If we look at the rest of September, you will note that the 30th, similar to this year, and I believe it might even be the exact same day, is our ATPPS day. And what we heard from our teachers, those are the individuals who utilize ATPPS day, is how valuable it was to get the school year up and running, to know the students, and then to begin to talk about goals. As we look at the month of October, in October you will see just one adjustment with the day, and that is October 16th. And if you recall that particular day, that is a day where we do ACT and pre-ACT testing at the high school. But you'll notice that in green, that day is a no school day, excuse me, it's actually in pink. It is a no school day for K-8. But we will have our middle school teachers in doing professional development, and that professional development will be around conscious discipline. As we move into November, and we have 2 days that get a little tricky, and I know we've gotten just a couple of emails from community members. November 5th it's our election day. It is typically a day of no school. However, with the READ Act, our K-12 teachers will be doing professional development. And then during that same time, our 6-12 teachers will have prepped lessons to go out asynchronously. And I know as I talked with board members, I think we all have the same thoughts that it's not perhaps the most ideal, but it does give students the opportunity to practice connecting digitally. So that would be one 6-12 asynchronous day. The remainder of that month looks very much like previous calendars. As we roll into December, December 2nd again is a READ Act day, a professional development day, and then the remainder of December would look very much like previous calendars. As we go into January, you're going to notice that it is a full 2 weeks off for students. When staff return, they will have a workshop day, and then there will be the January 3rd date will be a READ Act, so it'll be a reading training day. And then the remainder of January looks very much the same as previous calendars. In the month of February, if you take a peek at February 14th, you are going to notice that that is a K-12 professional development day, and 6-12 would be doing asynchronous learning. So those are those 2 days that we talked about where we would have to be juggling both the asynchronous learning as well as some professional development. The remainder of February looks very much the same. As we enter March, that is very much the same with a workshop day following spring break. And then April 21st is a professional development day. And again, that is no school for students, and it's PD for our K-12 teachers. So we really work to have no school, no student, except for those 2 days. And then as we roll into May, it is the same thing. May 23rd is again a READ Act day, where teachers will be doing professional development. And then we would wrap up the school year on June 4th with the last day of school for K-12. So all of our students, we've had some feedback about that, all of our students would be finishing on the same last day.
Including seniors?
K-12, yes. And what that means then is that graduation would not occur until the 8th, is I believe where that is set, June 8th. Mm-hmm. And I know the board has received a lot of information about the READ Act, but those of you in the audience, it requires an extensive amount of professional development for intervention teachers, special education, our regular ed teachers, and so it's really for all licensed teachers, and our goal is to do that in 1 year's time instead of spreading it out over 2 or 3 years' time. So with that, any questions from the board?
Questions?
I got a couple questions. Julie,
Sure.
Apologies, asynchronous learning day, is that the same as a virtual day?
Yes.
Okay.
Asynchronous means that the teachers would push out lessons on Schoology, and students would be working at home.
How many of those in total are there during
Two.
two in the school year?
2.
Okay. October 16th, I know you talked about it's ACT
Yep.
prep day. Maybe I missed it. K through 8 doesn't have school, why is that?
That actually, for elementary, that is a day that they get back because of assessments. So they're doing assessments on that first day, so that is a day back. And then middle school staff will be doing professional development.
Okay. And then the state requires 165 instructional days, is that right?
That is correct. Let me just double check that.
It's 165 days.
Yep, 165
And a
days.
certain amount of hours for elementary and for secondary. And so straight 165 days doesn't total the correct amount of hours. So we have to have 167, I believe it is, to make the hours, the minimum hour requirement.
Okay. So maybe it's just the wording in the PowerPoint, but does, do your asynchronous days or virtual days, do they count toward instructional days?
Yes,
Okay.
asynchronous, or if we were to call it, in the past it was e-learning, the time would count. Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Board member Tessner, actually there are 3 because of the election day. asynchronous days in the calendar.
Okay.
And Dana, are you picking up the 16th?
Nope, November 5th,
Yep.
and then,
February 14th.
oh, I'm sorry, 2.
Thank you.
So is November 5th the only one that's a K-5 asynchronous day?
No, there are no K-5 asynchronous days. And I think we heard enough feedback that it was really difficult for our littles to be able to log online and make that productive when it's just one day. So November 5th, K-12 will be doing all professional development, and 6-12 will have asynchronous.
So there's no e-learning for anyone who is below secondary?
Correct.
Okay. I mean, I'm on the record for not being a huge fan of asynchronous days, both as a board member and also as someone who watches a child asynchronously learn in my house. So I'm a little I understand why with the READ Act we have to do this, and I appreciate that we are ripping off the Band-Aid in 1 year instead of having 3 years. But I really hope that on asynchronous days, at least my child's teachers cram them full of work. Just to, I mean, I really, because I just feel like it's a lot of, unfortunately, I also work from home, so I can see what my children are doing, and so I just prefer that they're really robust.
And I think we have a team in back hearing that message, and so I think the importance of making sure that on those days there is work to do, and there should be work pushed out. And yes, we know, like every other bargaining group, we may have staff members who are out sick, but then that needs to be posted, but assignments need to be done in other classes then.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Next is our action items. 7.0, we have 7.1, and that is canvassing the election results, and that will be presented this evening by our Superintendent, Julie Nielsen.
Thank you. I think I have the next two. This evening, I am asking for approval. Washington County prepares the canvassing reports, and it is required for the local school board to certify the election results. The school board is asked to certify the election results for November 7th, the election of the 3 school board members for 4-year terms. In addition, they are asked to certify the election results of the November 7th election of 3 ballot questions as attached in the abstract and return votes cast. And then finally, the school board is asked to approve the resolution authorizing issuance of certificates of election documents following the expiration of the 7-day contest period and receipt of the required campaign financial reports. The resolution and canvassing documents will be posted as soon as they are received from Washington County. So with that, I am asking for approval on the canvassing results of the November 7th election.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the resolution for the November 7th canvassing results? Moved by Katie,
I think seconded by Pat.
seconded by Pat. Okay. This is a resolution, so Dana?
Eric Chesmer,
Yes.
Louise Hines.
Yes.
Pat Driscoll,
Yes.
Melinda Doles. Katie Schwartz. Simi Petnaik.
Yes.
Sharon Van Leer.
Yes. Thank you. Next, we have 7.2, and that is proposed policy changes, and that will be presented by our Superintendent, Julie Nielsen.
Thank you again. This evening, I am bringing forth the 6 policies that were reviewed by our Policy Review Committee, along with reviewed 2 weeks ago at our workshop meeting. Policy 710, extracurricular transportation. We noted changes to legal references and cross-references. Video recording on school buses, changes to to some grammar and cross-references. And then policy 802, disposition of obsolete equipment and material and waste reduction and recycling. There were no suggested changes for those 2 policies. And then 805.1, district landscaping, and 903.2, relations with other school districts and educational research centers. The ask is that both those policies are removed and that we would create procedures to support that work.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the proposed policy changes?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Simi and seconded by
Eric.
Is there any comments or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Next is 7.3, and that is architect service, and that will be presented by Dan Pine, our Director of Finance and Operations.
Good evening again, Chair Van Leer, members of the school board, and Superintendent Nielsen. Tonight, in the matter of transparency, we want to inform you of which architects will be used for the construction of the projects that were approved in the election. Question 1, $160 million, and question 2, $40 million. As we talk about construction, I don't know if you know that, but my son works for an HVAC contractor, and his boss, HVAC is heating, venting, and cooling, and his boss is always telling him to keep his ducks in a row. So the culmination of the long-range facility plan process result in the passage of the bond referendum questions on November 7th, 2023. The plan included expanding Eastridge High School, Altman Middle School, renovating Park High School and Woodbury High School, and improving secured entrances to Woodbury Middle School, Lake Middle School, and Cottage Grove Middle School. The plan also included expanding Bailey Elementary School, Gray Cloud Elementary School, Pine Hill Elementary School, and Red Rock Elementary School, as well as adding restrooms to Pullman, Royal Oaks, Hillside, and Crestview. Construction will take place at 15 different schools over the next 3 years. The first phase of construction will be design. Wold Architects and Coma are the architects for the projects. The projects will be split among the 2 architects. One reason that we're employing 2 is just the overall size of these projects, and to get all these done at one time, that there's no one firm that has the capacity to do all these things. They will be phased. We interviewed architects before the last vote and made our determinations, and these were the 2 firms that we chose. We interviewed 7 architects and 2 engineering firms in April of 2022. We kept those notes, kept contacts with these people. Not contact enough where they could charge us anything, but just to get some advice and things like that. We will actually begin to have our first meeting with those 2 firms tomorrow morning, and we'll give you updates as we go as how the design process is going. Tonight, I just wanted to make it transparent that these are the 2 firms. Contracts are at the attorney's office, and we'll bring those back later on consent. Any questions?
Dan, do we have a timeline or like a date that we're trying to get the design phase done by, a goal?
Well, it all depends on, we always work back from where the construction completion will be. Our first projects that will be done by the fall of '26. So every project has a different design phase, a different design timeline. And then all projects should be done by the fall of '27.
I think that's one of those things that we could communicate that, and then when we finally sat down and looked at the phasing and all the details of getting permits and then the construction, Katie, I think it was you who said that your son, who's going to be entering 9th grade, he'll be a senior when it's actually completed. And so just the length of time that it takes from passing the bond to actually having the work completed, especially when you have that many projects going on in a school district like ours. So.
And then what also happens is we try to look at when the bids and permits will be let. And we don't want to do all our bids at once because we'll be bidding against ourselves. We want to stagger those a little bit. And of course, we can't do bids until the specs are done, and the specs are done by the designers, the architects. I should also mention that these architects, they team with mechanical engineers, and Wold teams with KFI, and Coma teams with ISG.
Okay, any questions? Okay, thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
7.4 is the tentative agreement with bus drivers, and that will be presented this evening by our Director of Human Resources, Abby Baker.
That was an action
Do we
item.
need to vote on that?
Sharon.
Oh,
That was an action item.
Yeah, we needed a
was
vote.
that an action item?
Yeah.
Come back, Dan. Stay there, Abby, don't move.
Yeah, I would like a motion to approve the assignment of these architects for the bond projects.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Melinda, second by Simi. Is there any discussion? Good. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Dan. Now, Abby, come on.
Good evening, Chairperson Van Leer, members of the school board, and Superintendent Nielsen. This evening, I will present the tentative agreement with the Bus Drivers and Bus Assistants Association. Negotiations toward a new collective bargaining agreement between South Washington County Schools and the Bus Drivers and Bus Assistants Association have resulted in a tentative agreement to be effective July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2025. Members of the bargaining unit approved the tentative agreement on November 14th, 2023. The economic costing of the tentative agreement includes the following. Start wage for bus drivers as of July 1, 2023 will be $25 per hour. Start rate for bus assistants as of July 1, 2023 will be $18.73 per hour. Start rate for bus drivers as of July 1, 2024 will be $27 per hour. And start rate for bus assistants as of July 1, 2024 will be $20.23 per hour. Health insurance will be a 10% increase to the district contribution on the high deductible plan as of January 1st, 2024, and a 10% increase of the district contribution on the high deductible plan as of January 1st, 2025. Other contract items include a VIBA increase effective for both year 1 and year 2 from $100 to $125 per month for single coverage and from $200 to $250 per month for family coverage. Also longevity steps at 10 cents per hour for every year completed with the district. The longevity steps will cap at $2 per hour and does not apply to bus substitutes. Management recommends approval of this plan, and it connects to strategic priorities, student experience, operations, staffing, and finance, and engagement and partnerships.
Can I get a motion to approve the tentative agreement?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Pat, seconded by Louise. Is there any discussion or comments?
I just had one question. So with the longevity, if you've been here for 2 years, you would get 20 cents. So it's not, you don't have to be here for some amount of time before you start getting longevity.
Correct. It
Okay.
would start right away.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. Can I get a motion to, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Abby. Okay, next is 9.0, and that is our future meeting dates.
Superintendent.
Oh, excuse me. You have a report. I was just trying to knock you off, wasn't I?
Sharon
All
said
right.
that lady's talked enough already.
Next is 8.0, and that's our superintendent's report, and that will be given by none other than the Julie Nielsen.
So glad you gave me time because since November 2nd, our last board meeting, there have been a lot of great things happening in the school district. First of all, the success of our 2 bond questions and our technology levy question. Thank you to our communities of St. Paul Park, Newport, Cottage Grove, Woodbury, Great Cloud Island, and the townships of Afton and Denmark, and of course our employees, board members who were out sharing the information. As we shared throughout the process, what was on the ballot were the items prioritized by our communities. And we appreciate their support, and our students will appreciate the increased space, the renovated space, the enhancements to safety and security, the additional dollars for technology services, and the additional bathrooms. Our high schools have been in full swing with band, orchestra, and choir concerts. It's that season. In addition, each of our high schools have hosted a theater production. Park High School did a play called Death by Chocolate, aka Don't Eat the Chocolate. Woodbury High School performed the musical Footloose, and Eastridge High School performed The Wizard of Oz. And the cute thing about Wizard of Oz, there was a real live Toto. And oh, is right. He was really good. Yes. Truly amazing to see the costumes, the sets, and the talent that is both on stage and under the stage with the music. Our Veterans Day celebration. Across our entire district, schools spent time celebrating and recognizing those individuals who have served in the military. I was fortunate to be able to attend the program at Woodbury High School and Eastridge High School. My greatest joys were being able to speak with each of the veterans before the program and to watch our students stand clapping as our veterans entered the space. It was like the 3 to 5 minutes that just kept on, and our kids were so respectful. Thank you to everyone in the community that was able to attend. Again, it is one of my very favorite celebrations. Next, both our district parent ambassadors and our district student ambassadors met. Last week, we met with our parent representatives from each of our schools, and just today, we had our student ambassadors here in the boardroom. There probably are some crumbs on the floor. They are kids. We are so fortunate to have excellent representation on both teams. As always, our students are a highlight and enjoyed the first meeting. Beginning in January 3rd, we will have 3 student ambassadors attend each business meeting and give an update on what we are working on with them. Again, they were so excited when the sign-out came up. One of the little girls asked me for a Post-it note. She needed to make sure she wrote down the time, and it's here, and she wanted all of the details. So we can't wait to bring our kids here to the board meeting. And lastly, next week is a short week with Thanksgiving on Thursday. A reminder that students will have school on Monday and Tuesday. And to everyone, enjoy the break, and we will see students back on November 7th. And believe it or not, by that Friday, it will be December 1st. Hard to believe. But thank you.
Thank you. Now it's time for future meeting dates. 9.0, here we go. We have a school board business meeting on December 14th, 2023 at 6 p.m. Then on January 4th, 2024, we will start with a business meeting at 6 p.m., followed immediately by a workshop meeting. Meetings will be held here at the District Service Center. And with that, we are at 10.0, and that is a closed session pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D.05, Subdivision 3A, for a superintendent's evaluation. There will be no further action items following the closed session. Can I get a motion to close the session?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Simi, second by Louise. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.